Hey guys, thank you for watching. During this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a data mart or dimensional model using facts and dims, so fact tables and dimension tables. Of course, such a model, such a dimensional model, keeps things a bit more clear. And I think, we're into a phase that self-service BI becomes a new norm. And then in the end, everything will be messed up spaghetti-wise, and then we'll go back to a corporate dimensional model, which still has facts and dimensions. So also this example, we're gonna create two-dimensional models, so two data marts. As you can see here on the left side, we have one for AdventureWorks and we have one for Star Wars. AdventureWorks is going to have a couple of new files, which are included in the download zip folder, by the way. And the Star Wars data mart will use the existing tables that we've processed in the data warehouse before. But first things first, I want to show you what the end result is. And the end result is that we're going to have two data marts, a couple of dims, a couple of facts, logging that flag succeeded but also failed processing pipelines, a duration, number of inserts, and also the error message in case something fails. So this is the end result. This is really nice. And how does this look like? So you can actually use a store procedure, which I'm going to show you later on. This store procedure will be used by ADF pipeline. This one actually process data mart to fetch all the dimension tables and store procedures. And then another one is used to process and fetch all the fact-related store procedures. And then in the end, you can execute the same store procedures by specifying a source name. And the source name, you can say like, I want to just process that data mart or the other one. So if I use this one, for example, it will just fetch everything Star Wars data mart related, which is then in this case one dimension, and also just a single fact table called fact planets. Now that's for later on with ADF, but each store procedure also has an input parameter for a pipeline trigger time. So you can process them manually by executing the store procedure, but we're going to use an ADF pipeline for that because we want to process things in parallel instead of sequential, of course. But in the end, this is the end result. We do want physical tables for dimensions and facts. And I know physical is a bit, not done in some ways. People prefer nowadays to build views, virtualization, and do not copy data anymore. But I know for a fact that if you're going to use views on top of views on top of views, and then a left join with a view, and then a cross apply with a view, and then another sub select using a view, in the end, everything breaks. It's a matter of the number of levels, the number of joins, and the complexity of the queries inside the views. So I know from a practical example that a couple of clients from me, we have, really old sources that don't even have a primary key sometimes, don't even have a modify date, let alone a create date on the record level. And you do want to apply business logic for integrating your data, cleansing your data, a lot of is nulls, of course, but also an unknown record. And that just fits more into a store procedure than into a single view. So I'm just the guy that goes for a store procedure in this case. And then the end result of the query is then stored in a physical table again, which in my perspective is a lot faster to query from Power BI during business hours than executing a really complex query every time that someone runs a Power BI report. So I think for now we just have to see. But from my experience, this is one way to do it. Of course, there are multiple ways, and nothing is wrong. But for my customers and with my practicality, so to say, that things I've seen, I'm just going to use a store procedure, and I'm just going to store the data in a table for now. So let's zoom into the DDL script. So you did download the zip file, of course, after purchasing the extension for the MonkeyDWH warehouse. First things first, the logging schema is already in use by the data warehouse object, so don't need to use and create these, of course. And then you can manually create the new schemas because there's a lot of things with Fabric you can't use an if exists, and there's even a stranger Error message that says needs to be in a batch or a single batch and is not allowed and a lot of stuff. But I've tried building it, idempotent like I did before, drop things first and then recreate things. But if you touch the schema somehow, it starts breaking. So you need to create these manually. I did add a master data schema, which holds the time and calendar tables. I know from Synapse that, you can't really use CTEs and stuff like that. I'm not sure if Fabric supports that right now or perhaps in the future, but in the end, for this demo, we're populating a dimension for calendar and a dimension for time. And both of the source records are and then now inserted into the master data as a static table. Okay, and don't forget Fabric is case sensitive. So that's a thing you need to know. This one, by the way, so dim user for AdventureWorks Data Mart is actually being designed to throw an error each time it's executed, which is of course to test all the logging steps and everything runs actually fine, but you do see the error message pop up in the logging. So it works as designed in this case. So I just want to go through high level what's actually in the DDL. I'm not going to go into the details, but we got a lot of logging objects, views, new table, a couple of store procedures, the master data schema, of course, with the two tables, calendar and time. Then we have an AdventureWorks data mart, dim calendar, dim user, dim sales order, dim time, fact sales amount per month, and effect sales orders. And for these new facts and dims, keep in mind that you need to process the new files, which are in the download folder. Just process them first in the data warehouse, regenerate things again. Then you have those files being loaded historically. And then you can use these dim and fact queries for that. Last but not least, the Star Wars data mart, dim planets, and effect planets, of course. So that's it. I'm going to show you the ADF pipeline. So a new ADF pipeline is needed to process things in parallel, of course. Basically, lookup, which will select all the dimensions it needs to process. And then it starts processing things in parallel. It will fetch the new list of fact tables it needs to process, and then it will process these fact tables also in parallel. Now you can easily just go to the settings and see that the batch count is now currently set to 6. Of course, depending on your compute, you can increase it to 12 or to 10 and play around with these settings, of course. The only thing is that, like we've seen in the MonkeyDWH and the data warehouse side of things, unfortunately, you can't upload a pipeline to your workspace right now. So you need to create this pipeline manually, but you can use the JSON file with all the expressions, of course, to easily recreate such a pipeline. And then also don't forget your daily run. It will need to have an invoke pipeline over here that at the end, and in case it's completed, so of course it can fail because it does fail actually, because if there's a CSV file, or a Parquet file, sometimes it's intended to break, and then after that it's being moved to the archive folder, as seen in the previous video. So put this one to complete it with a blue line, and then invoke the new process data mart pipeline. And then your daily run is set, and then you can actually just start loading and processing your files and you're processing your data marts as you normally would do within Synapse or within ADF or within your on-premise environment. Let's go back to the logging. So we do have a completely new logging table with views. Similar goes for the data warehouse side. This one looks at the latest. There's also an all to go in history, go back. There's another one to zoom in on all the failed ones, and you can start queries to check if something failed, if you need to rerun things, and use different things for that. But in the end, it works. This is one way to set things up, and it's easy to just migrate any existing store procedure from your current environment to this environment. And then, from my experience, and we're still running the trial for Microsoft Fabric, but it's fast enough for your initial test, and it will run. I think it will be in preview for a couple of months, but back then, everything will be fine. And at least now we have a blank canvas, so to say, or at least a workable setup, which you can actually use for, doing some research and just figuring out how Microsoft Fabric actually works. And then, yeah, for now, I would say thank you very much for watching. Send me an email if you have any questions, and have a nice day. Bye bye.